I'm just that kind of OCD in that matter of the shape, so. But it's a great day to be not only in the house of the Lord, but to be the house of the Lord. It's what we are. We're the body and the bride of Christ. He dwells within this vessel. Imperfect, nonetheless meant for that purpose. Well, we want to invite our ushers to go ahead and prepare to wait on us as we receive the Lord's tithes and offerings. This is opportunity for you to worship. Just a quick shameless plug. Just a couple of more weeks before this fiscal year is over, and so we want to tell you that opportunities for year-end giving are available to you. I hate to say it like this, but if you were to, I don't know, say, give $1 million before the end of the fiscal year, the annual year, you can count it towards your taxes because it's a donation. If you want to give $1 million, that's cool by me. I'm just going. If anybody has $1 million to give, let me know. I'll talk to you out of the need. I'm kidding. I'm just teasing, okay? Nobody get all freaky on me. God is good. God is faithful. God is awesome. So, let's pray. And I hope that you will worship in this attitude of giving. Shall we? Lord, every good and perfect gift comes from God the Father of love. So, Lord, as we honor you in this way, we pray that God, would you be honored? Would you be praised? Would you be glorified? And would it be done with a cheerful heart? Would you bless our people, God, as they give? Would you use this gift for the purpose of funding the mission of the church, God? We got one job, and that is to make disciples. And so, God, I pray that we would be busy about this job of making disciples. And so with this offering, we can do that. Lord, I pray that you bless the faithfulness of your people, that as they give, that they would do so, one, out of joy, two, out of faith, that you would provide. And Lord, may we bless your name, I pray today. In Jesus' name, everybody said, amen. Lord, you want to come up, share with us what's going on in this world, traveler?
Good morning. It's nice to be back and see all these lovely faces. Of course, tonight, 5 o'clock is the church Christmas dinner, so I hope everybody has all kinds of food they're going to be bringing. Because I don't think any of us are going to go to lunch. We're all just going to wait for dinner to eat. After the service, we need some help with setting up tables for the dinner tonight, because we're going to eat in here. So anybody who is willing and able to help, that would be greatly appreciated. The 16th, which is next Saturday, is the women's cookie exchange at the Nichols House. You are to bring 4 dozen cookies to share. Bring a plate to take your cookies home, and it is at 4 p.m. And if anybody needs directions or whatever, I'm sure we can provide those. Let's see. The 17th is really, really, really good news, because it's the kids' Christmas program. And that, of course, is at church, at service time. Also on the 17th is the last day of the box in the lobby to collect Toys for Tots. And make sure they're unwrapped and they're new. And then also on the 17th, well, we got a lot of stuff going, is the open house at the pastor's house, 4 to 7 o'clock. So that's next Sunday evening. Before December 24th, we need people to bring candles for the candlelight service. Preferably paper candles, pillows. Oh, you want the big, okay, big fat pillows, okay? On the 24th will be the Christmas Eve candlelight service at 8, and that's what we need the candles for. Of course, there is also going to be service at 10:30 as normal, because it's a Sunday. 10 o'clock. I remember. Okay, on the 27th, there is no night church activities, which, that's a Wednesday? Yeah, that's Wednesday. Okay? The 29th, the 27th through the 29th is extreme, and anybody that's going there or whatever, any questions, needs to know what's going on in St. James. And the 31st is going to be New Year's Eve food, fun, and fellowship at 7 p.m. here. Okay. So bring snack food. Okay. I can't think. I'm looking here. Oh, this Wednesday I have no idea what we're having to eat. So leftovers, whatever. There'll be something. So don't worry about it. And other than that, that's all I can think of. Okay, children, would you like to go practice for the last Sunday for your play for next week? If so, go with Miss Ellen. Thank you.
Come back from road trips is always testing. Like, oh man, I gotta get back in the groove. How do you do that, right? I'm thrilled to death to have Tom and Noreen back to visit, back to stay. Yeah. Where am I going with that crazy one? All right. So we're going to begin with this. If you have your bulletin, pull it out, and you're going to find at the very bottom a place for prayer requests. The only way to invite you to have that, if you need a pen, I can get somebody to bring you a pen. I think Lori's actually back there, or Pam's back there. If anybody who needs a pen, you want to raise your hand, we'll get somebody to bring you a pen. I'd really like you to just, if not, if you don't write down anything else, here in just a second, I'd like to ask you to write down any prayer requests that you have going on. We all have prayer requests in some manner, way, shape, or form. If you're able to write it down, that will actually help us. And I'd really, really like to encourage you to write down at least a prayer request. I'll tell you what, if you'll do that, you don't have to take notes, okay? Is that fair? You'll just write down your prayer requests. And that would be fantastic. I want to begin with that. You know, some examples of things that we're praying about. You know, Carly Williams is in the hospital. She's it's gone from chicken pox to now viral mitosis and viral encephalitis, and they're trying to get it from becoming meningitis, and so she's in the hospital. We want to pray for that. I know that you guys were praying for little Brayden, the Boswell great-grandson, because he was in the hospital, couldn't breathe. Case Newell, you remember a couple weeks ago, was having certain seizures, and we prayed for him, and we're still praying for him because he's doing meds for a while. Kathy McIntyre's in the hospital right now. Fortunately, she's doing good, but nonetheless, she can't get out until tomorrow. Tom Campbell's going to have a procedure here in a couple of weeks. Ellen has a student named Kaylee you folks have been praying for, who has a tumor in her brain. Maybe you're praying about personal stuff. Maybe you're praying about a job promotion that you really hope will happen, or maybe you're praying about getting a job. And there's one that you've applied for and you really want to see that come about. Maybe you're praying about decisions that are coming down the pipe that you have to make or that you want to make. And you're kind of hopeful that things will turn out for you. Maybe you're praying, God, take away a burden, take away a thorn in the flesh, take away the depression or anxiety. Please, if you've got prayer requests, write these down. These are going to be very important for us later. Maybe you're praying, God, would you restore a relationship? Would you restore and fix a relationship? Maybe it's with a spouse, with children, with friends, preacher, you never know. I mean, if you're praying God to restore relationships, then would you write that down? Maybe you've got stuff you really don't want to write down because you don't want somebody sitting next to you to see you're actually praying about that. I'll write this down so I just see it over my shoulder. They're going to think of a fruitcake or something like that. Just write unspoken, okay? How about that? Just write unspoken there because you don't want your neighbor to see. Yeah. Okay? I'm so grateful that God above hears and answers my prayer. We're gonna get to this a little bit later on. First, I want to talk to you about covenant. There's 3 points of covenant that we talked about last week in this Advent series, Emmanuel, God with us. The first one is the covenant that God made with Abraham. God made this covenant with Abraham for the sake of land and legacy. He's going to give to Abraham land to call his own. And on top of that, he's going to give him a legacy. He says in Genesis 15, verses 5 through 8, the Lord took Abraham outside and said to him, look up into the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have. And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. Then the Lord told him, I am the Lord who brought you out of the Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land as your possession. But Abram replied, O sovereign Lord, how can I be sure that I will actually possess it? And then the Lord said, well, do this. And he proved to him, I'm going to give you land, and I'm going to give you legacy. The second covenant is with Moses. If you remember, Moses brought the people of Israel out of Egypt. And in bringing them out of Egypt, they land on the other side of the Red Sea. And it's there where the Lord meets with Moses. And he has a long, deep conversation with him. But particularly the promise that the Lord gave to Moses was, I'm going to always be with you. I'm always going to be in your midst. And if I will always be your God, then you don't have to worry about anything. Verses 25 through 33 of chapter 23 of Exodus says, you must serve only the Lord your God. If you do, I will bless you with food and water, and I will protect you from illness. There will be no miscarriages or infertility in your land, and I will give you long, full lives. That's a great promise. If you'll make me your only God, I'll feed you, I'll clothe you, you'll have kids, you'll have generations. I will send my terror ahead of you and create panic among all the people whose lands you invade. I will win your battles for you. I will make all your enemies turn and run. I will send terror ahead of you to drive out the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites, but I will not drive them out in a single year because the land will become desolate and wild animals will multiply and threaten you. And I will fix your boundaries from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the eastern wilderness to the Euphrates River. I will hand over to you the people now living in the land, and you will drive them out ahead of you. Make no treaties with them or their gods. Let us not live in your land, for they will cause you to sin against me. If you serve their gods, you will be caught in the trap of idolatry. I promise you that I will always be with you. If you will make me your God, I'll protect you, I'll provide you, I'll feed you, I'll clothe you, I'll give you generations to come. The third covenant was one that he made with David. And he promised David that if David would always make God his Lord, then his generations behind him would always sit upon the throne. He said, if you will serve me, if your descendants will serve me, make me king of their heart, then I will promise you that you'll always have somebody in your bloodline sitting upon the throne. And then to Solomon, his son, he says this in 1 Kings 9, as for you, if you follow me with integrity and godliness, as David your father did, obeying all my commands, decrees, and regulations, then I will establish the throne of your dynasty over Israel forever. For I made this promise to your father, David, one of your descendants will always sit on the throne. But if you or your descendants abandon me and disobey the commands and decrees I have given you, and if you serve and worship other gods, then I will uproot Israel from this land that I have given them. I will reject this temple that I have made holy to honor my name. This covenant that God made with David said, as long as I am your God, then you'll always have somebody in your bloodline on the throne. And the whole focal point of covenant between God and Abraham, between God and Moses, between God and David, has always been about one specific thing. That's about being present in the midst of his people. The entire purpose of the covenants that God made with these people points to Emmanuel, points to God with us. The whole purpose of the covenants was God wants to be with his people. That's the heart of God. God wants to be in the middle of his people. That is his greatest desire. He wants to be in the middle of his people. He wants to be present. Even today, God wants to be present in the middle of us. How crazy is that? That the God of the universe loves us so much that he would send his son to become a baby, to become the price paid, so that what? So that he could forever be in our midst and among us. God with us. Emmanuel. So God uses Moses to deliver the people of Israel out of Egypt. They cross the Red Sea and they enter into a new land. And for 400 years, the people of Israel learn what it means to be a nation under God. To learn how to be organized, to live, to survive, to work amongst themselves. And God was their king. Until Samuel. We talked about it a little bit last week. 1 Samuel 8. The people of Israel say to Samuel, "You're getting old." Is that insulting? You're getting old and your boys aren't going to be near the leader that you are. So we've been looking around and we've decided we don't want this kind of a government system anymore. We want a king that we can serve, like the kind of kings that are of the neighboring nations. And it was in that moment that what happens is that the chosen people of Israel reject God as king. And they reject God as king. And that's one side of the coin. God says to Samuel, give them what they want. They're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me as their king completely. But warn them what's to come. And so they get a king. Remember we talked about it last week, Saul, and then after Saul was David, and after David was Solomon. Last week we talked about Ahaz in Isaiah chapter 7. And how in that particular instance what happened was not only did the chosen people of God reject God as king, but in Isaiah 7 they reject his covenant completely. They reject his covenant completely. He said, if I will always be your king, you'll always have somebody on the throne. But if you don't, I'm going to take the nation away from you. And so Ahaz rejected the covenant, said, no, I'm done. We're good. I don't want to part of the party anymore. And that's what happens. And if you remember last week, upon this rejection, God makes two statements. In Isaiah 7, he says, first, I'm coming down there. He says, here's the sign, a virgin will conceive and bear a son. His name will be called Emmanuel. And the second one is, you're going to time out. Remember what I said? You're going to lose your kingdom. I told you that if you ever give up on the covenant, you're going to lose the kingdom. And you're going to fall into trap. And that's what happened. So here we are. We're going to look at chapter 11 eventually. Okay, eventually. I promise. The time is now 11:14. It's not going to be a long service. Okay, I promise you. Okay, I promise you. All right. So if you're like panicking, it's okay. All right. But before we can get to chapter 11, I have to quickly move through 8, 9, and 10. And here's the simple part. You ready? In 8, 9, and 10, they all have the same theme. They all have the same theme. You see, in chapters 8, 9, and 10, they have 4 components. Each one has 4 components, the same 4 components. The first one is the people's will. The people's will. The people decide, well, you know what? We want to do our own thing. We want to do what we want to do. We want to be king of our castle. We want to be that. The second component is God's wrath. God says, I told you, if you're not going to be my people, then you're not going to be my people. The third component is conflict because, oh yes, we are, and you know how that goes, right? Your kids back talk to you, right? What happens? And yet the fourth component that shows up continually over and over again in all 3 of these chapters is there's an expression of mercy that pops up in the story. There's an expression of mercy that pops up in the storyline. For instance, in chapter 8, We see, whenever we look at the people's will, we see Isaiah 8:6. It says, "My care for the people of Judah is like the gently flowing waters of Shiloh." But they rejected it. My care for my people is just a beautiful thing, but they don't want it. They kicked it to the curb. And yet, they're rejoicing over what I'm doing for them with King Rezin and King Pekah. You know, last week, King Rezin and King Pekah were going to destroy Judah. And so, like the people of Israel or Judah were saying, you know what? We don't really want to serve you, God, but we're grateful that you're going to take care of our enemies for us. So, just go ahead and take care of them. But when you're done, you can go on back to doing what you're doing. And that's basically what the people's will was. We want to be our own boss. We're grateful for you to do nice things for us, but we're not interested in you being our king. Well, God doesn't go too well with that. His reaction usually comes from discipline. And so verses 7 and 8, he says, "Therefore the Lord will overwhelm them with a mighty flood from the Euphrates River." And that comes in the form of the king of Assyria. And all his glory, this flood will overflow all his channels and sweep into Judah until it is chin deep. It will spread its wings, submerging your land from one end to the other. Oh, amen. No. God's wrath says, if you're not going to be my people, you're not going to be any people. We're not playing this game. And then he talks about how the people, they reject that. And there's conflict with it. It shows up. It's this response to the wrath of God. They say, oh, yeah, watch this. Isaiah 8, verses 9 and 10 says, "Huddle together, you nations." The Lord is talking to the people of Judah. "Huddle together, you nations, and be terrified. Listen, all you distant lands. Prepare for battle, but you will be crushed." Yes, prepare for battle, but you will be crushed. Call your councils of war, but they will be worthless. Develop your strategies, but they will not succeed. God is with us. You can go ahead and decide you want to fight this, but it ain't going to work. And then we see this expression of mercy pop up. The Lord is talking directly to Isaiah. And it's the very idea that there's mercy in the story. The very idea that there's mercy in the story, it's like, okay, we're talking about the God of the universe, right? Everybody agree with me? God of the universe could pretty much squash Judah like a bug. Would you agree with me? If he was really, really, really done with them, just big old size 11 shoes. He probably a little bit bigger than 11, I guess. But squash them and put them out of the misery. But yet, he doesn't. We see this example of mercy coming to the story, almost like God is a surgeon. He's cutting out cancer out of the body of the patient. Not to hurt the patient, but to see the patient survive and live and thrive and become something else. And God says to Isaiah in verses 11 through 14, "The Lord has given me a strong warning." This is Isaiah speaking. "The Lord has given me a strong warning not to think like everyone else does." He said, "Don't call everything a conspiracy like they do, and don't live in dread of what frightens them. Make the Lord of heaven's armies holy in your life. He is the one you should fear. He is the one who should make you tremble. He will keep you safe." He's saying, Isaiah, keep your eyes on me. If you keep your eyes on me, you won't have any problems. There's lots of conflict going on. I'm sharing my wrath because of what the people's will is, contrary to mine. But you keep your eyes on me, and they'll be there. You see the same pattern in chapter 9, verses 8 through 11. It kind of sums up the wrath, the will, and the conflict all in one fell swoop. It says, "The Lord has spoken out against Jacob. His judgment has fallen upon Israel." There you've got God's wrath. "And the people of Israel and Samaria, who spoke with such pride and arrogance," there's the people's will, "will soon know it. They said," and here's the conflict, "We will replace the broken bricks of our ruins with finished stone, and replace the felled sycamore fig trees with cedars." See, you think you've got the best of us? Oh no, we'll rebuild. We'll be stronger. You just watch us. It's really interesting that whenever 9/11 happened, there were about 4 to 5 different times that when the leaders of our U.S. government talked about not retaliating, but about coming back out of this, they were speaking with this verse. They shared this verse. And I don't think they knew the defiance of the people as they said, oh no, we've taken a hit, but we will rebuild. Things will get better again. And then you see this expression of mercy that is the first 7 verses of chapter 9. It's famous. in the Advent season. The people who walk now in darkness will soon see a glorious light. For a child is born unto us, a son is given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Same four components: the people's will, God's wrath, conflict between, and an expression of mercy. Chapter 10 is all about the Assyrians. They're a tool in the hand of God. The Assyrians are not favored by God. They're not his chosen people. The Israelites are, but yet God uses the Assyrian army. And so we read here, even still in chapter 10, the people's will. We read about God's wrath and the conflict that ensues. And then there's an expression of mercy, verses 20 through 21. In that day, the remnant left in Israel, the survivors in the house of Jacob, will no longer depend on allies who seek to destroy them. But they will faithfully trust the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. A remnant will return. Yes, the remnant of Jacob will return to the mighty God. Over and over and over again, chapter 8, 9, and 10, you see the people's will as they defy God and say, no, we want to choose our own way. We want to do our own thing. This is the way it's going to be. And you see the wrath of God say, oh, that ain't the way it's going to fly in my hands. And then you see the conflict that takes place between the people's will and God's wrath. And yet, even in the middle of all this story, you hear the expression of mercy that comes up. Here's where it gets really good. You see, chapter 7 leads to chapter 8. Chapter 8 leads to chapter 9. Chapter 9 leads to chapter 10. Chapter 10 leads to chapter 11. You're like, well, go. Chapter 11 is completely different than the previous 3 chapters. It is an absolutely different, it is going completely the different direction as to what these first 3 chapters have done. And there are 4 parts to this that we're going to just take a quick look at. And I want you to just, if you've got your Bibles, turn to chapter 11 of Isaiah and just follow along with me. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. You see, the first 5 verses, 1 through 5, they describe the nature and character of Emmanuel, the Messiah. Would you listen to these words? Out of the stump of David's family will grow a shoot, referring to the bloodline, the throne of David. Yes, a new branch bearing fruit from the old root, and the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him. The Spirit of the Lord will be present upon him. The Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord. He will delight in obeying the Lord. He will not judge by appearance, nor make a decision based on hearsay. He will give justice to the poor and make fair decisions for the exploited. The earth will shake at the force of his word, and one breath from his mouth will destroy the wicked. He will wear righteousness like a belt and truth like an undergarment. So you've got 8, 9, and 10, which is filled with nothing but the arrogance and the stubbornness of the people against the will and the wrath of God, with the conflict in the middle of it. And suddenly you get this total gear shift that then explains the character of the Messiah. And he's filled with the spirit of wisdom and understanding, and he has the spirit of counsel and might, and he doesn't judge on appearance or hearsay. And he drives away the wicked. And this introduce of Emmanuel is a gear shift. And then it goes to another passage, beginning verse 6. This is a strange read, folks. I want you to listen to me, okay? Beginning verse 6 through 9. In that day, the wolf and the lamb will live together. The leopard will lie down with the baby goat. The calf and the yearling will be safe with the lion, and the little child will lead them all. The cow will graze near the bear. The cub and the calf will lie down together. The lion will eat hay like a cow. The baby will play safely near the hole of a cobra. Yes, a little child will put its hand in a nest of deadly snakes without harm. Nothing will hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. For as the waters fill the sea, so the earth will be filled with people who know the Lord. Think about where this falls in the story. God says to Ahaz, okay, we're done. And then chapters 8, 9, and 10 are filled with what? Fighting, conflict, harshness, peril, horrible. And then suddenly, Emmanuel comes on the scene. And when Emmanuel comes on the scene, what shows up but harmony and unity and peace? And the very nature of animals that normally are aggressive is removed, and peace and harmony fill the space. Because why? Because Emmanuel is present. We keep reading, beginning verse 10. In that day, the heir to David's throne will be a banner of salvation to all the world. The nations will rally to him. The land where he lives will be a glorious place. In that day, the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to bring back the remnant of his people. Those who remain in Assyria, in northern Egypt, in southern Egypt, Ethiopia, and Elam, in Babylonia, Hamath, and all the distant coastlands. He will raise a flag among the nations and assemble the exiles of Israel. He will gather the scattered people of Judah from the ends of the earth. Not only does the power of the presence of Emmanuel come in and absolutely bring harmony and unity that has not been seen before, but he begins to put harmony and unity into the globe, into the nation. When Emmanuel is present, it brings harmony and peace, not just to the individual, but to the communities, to the nations. When Emmanuel is present, when God is with us, he brings peace and harmony and unity to the world. That's what he's saying here. Keep reading. Then at last, the jealousy between Israel and Judah will end. They will not be rivals anymore. They will join forces to swoop down on Philistia to the west. Together, they will attack and plunder the nations to the east. They will occupy the lands of Edom and Moab, and Ammon will obey them. The Lord will make a dry path through the gulf of the Red Sea. He will wave his hand over the Euphrates River, sending a mighty wind to divide it into 7 streams, so it can easily be crossed on foot. He will make a highway for the remnant of his people. The remnant coming from Assyria, just as he did for Israel long ago when they returned from Egypt. The divided nation of Israel and Judah in the presence of Emmanuel will be restored. So that means that the presence of God with us can actually restore the relationships between the most divided of peoples. The presence of Emmanuel can bring restoration and healing to even the most divided of peoples. And on top of that, not only do they become united and they live in harmony and community, but they also become united as a kingdom and in mission. And what's the mission? Together they attack the enemies, their common enemies. And 2, they bring home their people. So here's the statement for you. You ready? Harmony and peace and unity happen because of the power of the presence of Emmanuel, God with us. Harmony and community and peace happen because of the power of the presence of Emmanuel, God with us. 2 Corinthians 3:17 says, "For the Lord is the Spirit, and wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." Conversely, the reverse is true. Without the power of the presence of Emmanuel, there is no harmony. There is no peace. There is no unity. The places in our world where we see conflict and strife and hate and division and murder and discord and bitterness and anger and rage, these are the places that have denied the presence of God to step in. That's just a fact. The places in our world where you see hate, rage, murder, anger, bitterness, division, those places are that way because they have denied the presence of God into their midst. Therefore, the things we ask God for, if you're filling in blanks, this is the next one. The things we ask God for, His protection, His provision, His power, and His promises, these will only exist where the Spirit of God is present. Emmanuel, God with us. If you remember, in each of those chapters, 8, 9, and 10, the people's will said, God, we want your blessing, but we don't want you. We want your blessing, we want your protection, but we don't want you. And why? Because they wanted to be king in their own castle. They said, we want to be in charge of our world. And when the world takes a hit, God, we need you to come and right our world so that we can be in charge of it again and it's in good shape. God, come fix our flat. Let us get on the road again. We tend to pray, God, would you restore me? God, would you restore my health? God, would you restore my family? God, would you fix my needs? God, would you give me what I need? In fact, give me more than that. Give me what I want. And then when you're done giving me what I need, what I want, you can go. You can go. I don't want your present. I want your stuff. I want your present now. And what we find here in chapter 11 is that where the presence of the Lord is, that's where His blessing is. Where the presence of the Lord is, that's where His glory is. Where the presence of the Lord is, that's where His children receive His protection and His provision. Where the presence of the Lord is, there's freedom. Would you look at your prayer list for a second? Look over your list of prayer requests. I'm going to give you this simple little statement. Okay? What if we were to change how we pray? What if we were to change how we pray? Think about what you're praying about right now. God, would you meet my need? God, I've got this need in my finances, God. I've got this need in my finances. I have not enough money and a whole lot more months. God, I have a physical issue. God, I need you to restore my health. I think sometimes when we pray, again, we're saying, God, would you fix me so that I can get back to running my kingdom? I don't need your help running my kingdom. I just need you to help me get my kingdom back and running so I can run. What if we were to change how we pray and say, God, if where the presence of the Lord is, there is freedom. If the presence of the Lord brings harmony and unity, if the presence of the Lord brings protection and provision, if the presence of the Lord brings healing and forgiveness, if the presence of the Lord brings restoration, then God, would you come be present with me? If your very presence brings healing, if your very presence brings restoration, if your very presence brings provision and protection, if your very presence brings these things, if your very presence chases away fear and anxiety, if your very presence causes things to actually go against their normal grain, then God, would you come be present with me. What are you praying about today? What are you praying about today? Maybe you've got health problems and you're praying, God, I really want these health problems to go away. I want to encourage you to pray, God, you know what's going on, so I'm just going to invite you to come be present inside of my body. Maybe the home life is strained. God, would you come be present in my house? God, would you come be present in my marriage? God, would you come be present in my children's life? Maybe your finances are stretched. God, would you come be present in my pocketbook? God, would you be present in my retirement funds? God, would you be present in my bills? God, would you come be present? Because you see, when he's present, this is the rest of the story, folks. When he's present, that means he's king. And when he's king, he runs a good ship. So maybe if we were to simply pray, God, this is my story. This is my stuff. This is where I've got life happening to me. Maybe you got kids that don't know the Lord. Maybe you got a spouse that doesn't know the Lord. Maybe the things that are going on in our nation are scaring you. Maybe how we pray isn't, God, would you fix this? Maybe it's, God, would you just come planet and sit right in the middle of my stuff? Because what I find is where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is healing, there is protection, there is provision. So if you want all those things, then you really have to have the presence of God there. And to think, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to celebrate Emmanuel, God with us, Christ incarnate, God in the flesh. Why? So he could come be present with us. So here's what we're going to do. I don't know about you, but we're going to sing. And you're looking over your prayer request list there and you're saying, yeah, that's pretty good, that's pretty bad, that's pretty wild. Oh, wow, this hurts. God, I've been praying this. God, I've been praying about you taking care of my stuff, about you taking care of my body, about taking care of my mind. I've been praying about these things. Maybe I need to change how I pray. God, would you just come sit right down in the middle of me? God, would you just sit right down in the middle of me? Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, that's where the answers are, and you can't have the answers without presence. So if you want the answers, you got to have the presence. So if you're like me, I want the presence. The worship team will come. Let's just prepare. We're gonna sing. And I'm going to invite you to stand here in a second. When you do, I want to ask you to hold your prayer request list right here, just so you can kind of have it just in your hands. And as we sing, you know, as you glance down and look at it, maybe God will say, hey, why don't you come ask me for my presence and see what happens.